Hello, everybody. Welcome to week 16 of a year of game design, the journal where I document my progress trying to learn how to code and learn games over the course of 2020 by coding every day for 30 minutes. This was a good week and a bad week. Bad week in that I did miss another day. So I think it's the 7th day in total now that I've missed this year. Kicks me because I had 10 days in a row. I was right back on a streak, and then I just been letting it go too late, which is one thing that I've come to realize is I need to move my study earlier in the day, because if you push it late in the day, it creates a greater chance that you're going to miss it for whatever reason. So lesson learned, moving things earlier in the day, and hopefully I can get a nice run. I want to really hit 100 days without missing one soon. So starting up day 3 now in the bank that way. So that was a bummer. Good things I kept. I got 6 good days in. I also felt like, and a kind of a lesson that I didn't get a ton done. Looking at what was programmed, I feel like usually in a week I get more visible result accomplished, but for whatever reason this time I didn't. But we'll take a look at it anyway. I did, however, on a good note, learned about a really cool study tool that I'm using, and I think actually one of the reasons why the progress is a little slower is that I'm concentrating on really trying to cement in the concepts by memorizing some of the coding patterns and coding routines that I'm using all the time but hadn't been able to commit to long-term memory yet. So I'll show that. I'm going to show a little bit in the game, and then I'm going to jump right into a 5-minute session that shows this tool called Anki, which is about spaced repetition using flashcards. It's a really cool free program. I think you'll like it if you're learning coding, and I'd be curious to hear what people think. So it's a little mini kind of show display tutorial for that thing following I look at the game. And then the other thing I'll talk about at the end is a little bit of excitement for the future. So, all in all, kind of a plus-minus week, but let's take a look at what I got done in terms of building Laser Defender and kind of making progress with. So this week, although I felt like I didn't get a ton of stuff done, a lot of the background support for the game I think is in. So here we're looking at in this screen, we can see the start menu, and basically if I just fire it up. I think last week I had the shooting and the destruction done, but no sounds were in and there was no menu options. So now we've got a start menu, a game over menu. So you can click start, all the music is in, all the sound effects are in. So from that respect, I feel like things have been added in, and now you can die as a player. Let's see if I can get hit twice here. It's hard to die. There we go. Okay, so it's dead, and the game goes over. 2-second delay, and then it kicks over to the end screen. So there's a lot of kind of functionality, I guess, that's been added. You've got to play again. You go back to the main menu. You can go to start. Music keeps playing continuously, which was a script that had to be written. So from that perspective, the functionality of the game in terms of the game management and things like that have all been put in. But I was hoping to get all the way done with it. I mean, there's still some score elements have to be put in and become functional. And then really there's got to be a little bit of tweaking in terms of different types of waves, continuous play, and stuff like that. So I'm hopeful this week I'll be able to get this done, but yeah, I guess a little bit of progress. Now let's jump in though, however, and take a look at Anki, which is helping me to remember snippets of code and functions and methods and stuff like that, and things I'm constantly using within Unity. I'm kind of curious to see what people think of that. So let's jump over to that and drive on. So here's a quick look at Anki. And basically you can see that it's a very simple program, but I think it's going to be kind of a cornerstone of my study going forward, because the thing I like about this and the principle behind it is basically, in essence, it's a flashcard deck creator, and it displays the cards to you so you can study. So it's in that sense, it's very, very simple. There's not really that much more to it other than it's creating a deck of flashcards to help you study things that you just want to remember. But here's where it's different. It uses spaced repetition to reintroduce the cards back to you at better time intervals than you can do on your own. And if you're not familiar with spaced repetition, it's a big concept within learning, and it connects. So spaced repetition is basically that you want to reinforce the learning of things at greater intervals so that you can pull that information into long-term memory. And ideally what you're doing is you're trying to reintroduce the quizzing of that content just at the point where you're about to forget it. Because there's a lot of research shows that the forced recall, that hard thinking where you're trying to remember how to do a process or what something is, that's one of the key points for the brain to form those strong neural connections. So you want to space things out so you're forcing the brain to recall those things just at that point of forgetfulness, because that's when it's going to make the connection much stronger and is most beneficial to you. So if you try to study it after you've completely forgotten it and you can't recall it, that's too late. If you study it after you've already known it 100 times, you're kind of wasting your time. So you want to space out those intervals, and this program spaces out the intervals so that it's bringing you back content at a better spaced repetition sequence. So in other words, it does all the hard work for you. So it's really flashcards, but it adds in the element of that spaced repetition. It's totally free. I'll put a link down below in the browser. Again, I saw this from someone, I think it was Gemma on Twitter. So thanks to her for pointing it out. This version, the desktop version, is completely free. There is, if you notice up here in the top right, a sync version, which allows you to sync your basically your study decks across all different types of devices. And I know that the mobile app version, I think, is 25 bucks, and that's where the developer makes their money. I haven't gotten that yet. I'm going to see how this goes for another week and then decide whether I want to extend it. I'm pretty sure I'm going to get it, though, because this is so useful. But anyway, so you've got here up top, it's very simple. You've got decks. Right now, I've only got one deck, which is C#, the programming language for the Unity engine. So C# and Unity, the things I'm trying to remember it. And we can look here and see that I've only got 2 cards due. Now, I've only been using it for about 3 or 4 days. I've only got 8 cards in here. Basically, every time I come to something in these tutorials that I want to say, oh, I really want to remember that, I'm making a card for it, and then I'm doing the spaced repetition practice with Anki for it. So if I could add a card up here, I could browse through all the cards up here. I could see the stats on my study here. I haven't really played around with that too much. But if I come into this deck right here, I can say study now, and it's going to ask to review the 2 cards for which the timing has come up. So the spaced repetition intervals come up. It's saying, you know, all the other 6, we're not right now, we're not going to reintroduce those, but these 2 you should review. So if I click study now, this is one that asks me, what are the steps to set up a singleton? And a singleton basically is a device in Unity that allows you to have object permanence across the various scenes in a game. So I would go through this one. I actually did this one before I created the video, so I'm going to think through what that answer is that I've set up in my card, and I'm going to show the answer. I got this right, and so as I went through that, it's going to be, and then I'm going to look at it and say, was it hard? Do I need to do it again within 10 minutes or less? And I'm going to say that one actually, it was pretty good. But there are a couple places in here. There's find objects of type line where I really had to kind of strain myself to remember that one. So I'm going to say hard. So now that card is stored to come back to me 2 days from now. Here's a much simpler one. What is a solid site for finding free game art? This was up in the tutorial I was watching last night. I think it's freegameart.org. opengameart.org. So I got that one wrong. Do that one again. So it comes right up immediately because right now there's only one card instead of cycling through. What is a solid site for finding... Whoops. What is a solid site for finding free game art? Opengameart.org. Show answer, I got it right. So I'm going to click good on this one now. OGA, I can remember that. Good. So tomorrow that one will get reintroduced. So that's Anki. And what I'm trying to get at it with is that I've found in programming, there are just a lot of times where I'm looking up the same stuff over and over again. It's just constantly looking up. It's like, I've got to remember this, but I wasn't forcing myself in any kind of a dedicated way to remembering those things that just keep coming up and up. So I just constantly having to relook them up and look them up all over, and which is so frustrating. So I'm hopeful this will help with that. Feel free to check it out. If you do check it out, let me know in the comments whether you like it and how you're finding it. I'm really liking it. Now I'm 4 days into it, so some caveats that I might uncover some things I don't like about it as I go forward. Totally free, no ads for the desktop version. Again, I may eventually get the app version 2 just because I want to support the developers and I'm finding it really helpful, but we'll see how that goes. But anyway, that's it. If you do give it a shot and find it helpful, I'd be really curious to hear how you what you think of it. So that's Anki. So in terms of where I'm going next and how things are going internally, I think there's some frustrating points this week. I was disappointed I missed the day, and I wish I had more visible progress done in Laser Defender, for sure. So those are 2 little setbacks. On a positive note, though, I'm really excited about Anki and the potential that it brings to really help me to become a better coder. That's good. I'm excited I'm almost done with Laser Defender. That's good. I've also been looking ahead a little bit in the course, and I'm excited for the next games that the tutorial has you build, because I think those games are starting to get me closer to the skills I'll need to build the types of games I want to build. I mentioned in the last episode that I'm not necessarily interested in building arcade. I'm not interested in building arcade games. I'm more interested in building strategy and simulation type games, but I don't have those skills yet. And how might I get those skills? And it looks like these next couple of tutorial games that you build are going to get me closer to that. And also just in terms of kind of thinking through it in my own head, I realized I'm not that far away. I'm starting to have an idea on how I could build these things on my own with what I need to, with what I know right now. So I'm cautiously optimistic and pretty excited that maybe by the back half of the year, I'll have enough skills that I can start to build games I want to build rather than building arcade games and tutorial games, which kind of teach you kind of the fundamentals and basics of Unity, but not necessarily that skill set that I'll be using that I need to add more skills in order to be able to build the games I want to build. So I'm excited about that and excited to see where it's going. Thank you again for watching. If you've enjoyed the episode, please give it a like, or if you're new, please consider subscribing. It's always nice to have new people, and let me know how things are going for you. What are you working on? You're working on coding, you're working on gaming. Be curious to hear. Let me know in the comments. How's it going for you? Share what you're working on and things like that. And thank you again for stopping by. Look forward to seeing you next week, or keep driving on.